my name's Wayne Amon. I'm an academic advisor here at Southeastern. I also teach our Southeastern 101 class. Now, at this point in the semester, we really need to concentrate on starting strong. And as you start strong, it means you kind of get the lay of the land, because obviously this is probably a different experience from you than what you maybe had whenever you were in high school. And we'll talk more about that as we go through this conversation. But the name of the game of Southeastern 101 is about being successful in college. Now, we recognize that you guys earned your right to come to college and you did everything that you needed in high school to master being a high school student, and now you're here. But every step of the ladder that you go, from high school to college, from being a freshman to being an upperclassman, from graduating to finding that first full-time job, things change. And you're going to have to make some type of adjustments, some type of tweak of the things that you did well before to kind of accommodate the new reality that you're in. That's what Southeastern 101 is about, trying to help you get those tips of the trade. Now, I was a freshman student just like you are, sitting in the same seats here at Southeastern, so I've experienced what it means to be a freshman, but also I've been a professional advisor for the last 13 years, so I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to helping students get through their first semester. Now, I haven't met a student yet that haven't had at least one or two obstacles during their first semester that they've had to deal with. And I'm no hypocrite. I had my fair share of obstacles to deal with as well. So with Southeastern 101, we want to try to help you get through that without necessarily feeling like we threw you in the deep end of the pool and you've got to figure out how to swim on your own. So for all intents and purposes, your advisor, your SE 101 instructor, is going to be kind of like a life preserver. Our job is to keep your head above water, but also float you down the river of success to sophomore year. Now, we talk about being successful. Success can mean a lot to different people. As you go around campus and you go to your different classes, I bet if you asked your instructor for the class, or maybe if you go home on the weekend and asked your parents, or maybe even if you talk to an upperclassman that's been to college already, they could give you a lot of helpful advice of what you need to do to be successful here in college. We could probably fill this whole board up with recommendations that they would tell you to do or not to do to be successful. If we boil it down, though, to brass tacks, if we boil it down to the smallest minute detail, there's really two things that you need to be successful in college. The first thing, you need to be an organized individual. And what I mean by that is being able to manage yourself both in the classroom and outside of the classroom, because you're going to find in college, a lot of times the obstacles that students deal with aren't necessarily what's going on inside the classroom that trips them up. It's everything else that revolves around the classroom. Maybe it's your commute from home. Maybe it's your work schedule at work. Maybe it's dealing with a relationship issue with your significant other. Maybe it's dealing with baggage from your parents, or maybe it's dealing with the military and drill or whatnot. A lot of times, how you manage yourself both inside and outside the classroom is really an important part of being successful when you first start college. And that part we can talk about as the Southeastern class goes along. We can give you tips of the trade and give you help to help you make those adjustments. But I think that the most important part of the secret to being successful in college is your commitment level. And that really is going to tell the tale on whether or not you're going to stick it out when times get tough. And they will as we go through the semester. How much determination do you have and how much fortitude do you have in order to maybe sit down in that chair in the library or at home and do the work after class that you need in order to be successful in your classes. Now, I've seen semester in, semester out, students that have come to campus, and I think that they really haven't had that commitment level, and they seem to float into the campus really easily, and they seem to float out of campus right easily just as well. And those two students tend to bounce around like a pinball in a pinball machine, from class to class and major to major, with no clear focus, no clear path to follow. They're just kind of here. And a lot of times that's not enough in order to get you through your freshman semester. It means a little bit more. You've got to want this place a little bit more than that. In high school, you didn't necessarily have to want to be there. You kind of had to be there. But in college, it's more voluntary. You've chose to be here. So it means that you're going to have to give a little bit more dedication and more commitment. Now, at the beginning of every semester, I like to ask a series of questions to kind of gauge your mindset to see where you're at coming in when it comes to the commitment level part that I mentioned. The first question I always like to ask, why are you here? Now, not why are you here at this moment in this seat or watching from home. I'm talking about why did you choose to come to college to begin with? Most of you guys are probably 18, 19, 20 years old. You got your whole life in front of you. You could go to the military, you could go to the seminary, you could go to work, or you can even sit at home eating Cheetos on a beanbag chair, watching your favorite show on Netflix every day. It's your choice. You chose to come to college. But why? And I think some students have thought about why they're here, and some students, I think, haven't really thought about it very much. So I want to challenge everyone here to really think about, why did you decide to come to college? That's an easy question for me to ask, but believe it or not, it doesn't always generate an easy answer for most students. So I've had a lot of different responses over the years to that question, why you're here. I've had a lot of students will tell me, well, Mr. Wayne, I'm coming to college because I want to get a high-paying job. To which I say, hey, go for it. I think that's a big, important part about coming to college is to try to maybe make a connection to a career. But let's be honest. Not every degree program that you take at Southeastern necessarily has a connection to a supreme high-paying job. Let's just be honest. Nor, you don't necessarily need a college degree in order to get a high-paying job. You can be an apprentice for a plumber for 2 years, get your plumber certification after about 2 years, and maybe make over $100,000 a year, give or take how much you get your clientele and how much you really seek out jobs throughout the year. So you don't necessarily need a college degree in order to get that high-paying job, but that's typically why students do try to come. I've had some students will tell me, Mr. Wayne, I'm coming to college because without the degree, I can't get the job in the particular career path that I'm looking for. So I have to have my degree in order to get the RN certification for me to be a nurse. I need to get the degree in order for me to get the certificate so that I can teach at the school. I need to get the degree so that I can go and be a certified public accountant. So there are different reasons why students come. I've had some students have told me flat out, I'm here because I don't want to necessarily have to go to work right out of high school. So it would be easier for me to sit in a classroom every day and take notes than it would be for me to go sling boxes at a warehouse every day. And I can understand that. I've even had some students tell me that they're here because they want to be a more well-rounded, enlightened individual. A very utopian way of looking at the arts and culture and social issues and science and all of that. But let's be honest. Most of our freshman students in college don't necessarily want to come to college because they're looking to be a more well-rounded individual. They have maybe more tangible reasons to be here. I even had one time, one semester, one student told me that flat out, he was here in college because mom and dad told him he had to, and they dropped him off at the dorm and said, we'll see you in December at the end of the semester. Whatever the reason why you're here, I'm hoping that you're thinking about it because it's going to be important to be able to answer that question. Now, to answer that question, why are you here, I think we have to take a couple of things into consideration. I think you've got to really think about what have you gotten yourself into? And what do you want to get out of this place? Because as I mentioned, it's more of a voluntary decision to come to college, and it's not necessarily something that's mandated to you. So you really got to think about, if you're going to take this step to come to college, well, what's the payoff going to be? What are you going to get out of this? So at the beginning of the semester, when we're trying to identify, well, why are we here? We need to think about what are some of the important things that are going on in your life? Important priorities. Because, again, we're all pulled in different directions whenever you're in college, because you may have church obligations, you may have work obligations, you may have academic obligations, and you may have family obligations that you have to live up to. And as the semester goes on and the going gets tough, and it will, because it seems like that your classwork and your tests and your assignments tend to pile up towards the end of the semester, and people kind of get stressed, and you get into that time crunch, and you have to start making a decision of, what is my priority and what do I focus my time and intention on? So identifying kind of your priorities in life at this moment is something that's important when you're trying to figure out, well, why are you in college to begin with? For me, obviously, family and job are going to be high priorities on my list, but I've got a variety of different other things that are going on in my life, just like you do. But I'm hoping that college is high on your priority list, because if it's not, then I'm going to be honest, you're going to have a hard time finding that commitment level and that fortitude that you need whenever the going gets tough as the semester goes along. Also, I think we need to really think about, well, what are we going to try to get out of this place? After all, I'm asking you to give me your blood, sweat, and tears for the next 4 years. What's the payoff going to be? Now, I like to use this example. It's a pretty popular example for my students. I'm a big Saints fan. I don't know if anybody else in here is a big Saints fan, but I have been ever since I was a kid. So here at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of the fall, you got the football season starting up, and Drew Brees and the Saints, they're going to get together at the Saints facility right at the beginning of training camp, and they're going to come up with goals that they're going to try to accomplish as a team. Now, obviously, the ultimate goal for a professional football player is going to be to make as much money as you can, so that's kind of a given. But as a team, they're going to come up with goals that they want to accomplish. And of course, for a professional football team, the ultimate goal is to go to the Super Bowl. So I always like to challenge students to think, what is your Super Bowl? What is the ultimate goal? What are some things that you want to try to get out of life? Now, we're going to have an assignment that you're going to do for SE 101 that's going to challenge you to think about what are some life goals that you want to try to accomplish. Maybe you want to backpack across Europe one summer. Maybe you want to design and build your own house. Maybe you want to refurbish a classic car in your garage before you're 40. Maybe you want to go to law school or medical school. Or maybe you want to have 3 kids, settle down in a 2-story in suburbia, and live happily ever after. All of those would be perfectly acceptable life goals. But you've got to think about how long is it going to take for you to get there. I'm hoping as your life goal, you put down graduate college. Because obviously, if you're just starting this semester, and I know 4 or 5 years down the road can feel like a blur, because who really knows what they're going to be doing in 4 or 5 years, at least not without any clear detail. But if you can't at least envision yourself walking across the stage to get that diploma even from day one, then why even start this to begin with? You wouldn't start a diet if you didn't have an idea of what you were going to get out of it. You wouldn't take a job if you didn't know what kind of pay or what kind of compensation you were going to get out of it. So why start college if you don't have a foreseeable, tangible end result that you're going to be working towards? And for you guys, it's going to be graduation. So think about long-term goals, and I'm hoping college and graduation is a part of that. But let's be honest, 4 or 5 years down the road, who really knows what's going on in 4 or 5 years, at least not with any great detail? So that image of graduation and walking across the stage is going to be kind of blurry here from day one. So you want to try to make that goal a little bit more attainable. Make it a little bit clearer as you go along. So like Drew Brees and the Saints, so using that example, they want to go to the Super Bowl. Well, there's a lot of steps that it takes in order to reach the Super Bowl. You've got 2 weeks worth of training camp. Then you've got 4 preseason games that they have to get through. Then you've got 16 regular season games and a shot to get to the playoffs, and then you've got to win a couple of playoff games to get to the Super Bowl. So there's a lot of steps along the way. And because that goal, that Super Bowl, is so far out, it can be easy for you to lose focus and get maybe lost in the weeds. Same thing in college. I'm asking you from day one to think about graduation. You may have a vague idea of what it is, but it's going to take a while for us to get there. And because it may take a while, it doesn't seem real. So instead, I want to recommend the same thing Drew Brees typically says during any kind of a radio or television interview. He always talks about taking it one game at a time and letting those games build on each other till you get closer to the Super Bowl. Same thing for college. You want to think about what do we want to accomplish semester by semester, and let those semesters build on each other until we get closer and closer to the end game, to graduation. So I also want to challenge you to think about what are some things you want to accomplish just this semester, from August to December. Maybe you want to lose 10 pounds. Maybe you want to gain 10 pounds. Maybe you want to put $100 savings in your bank account. Maybe you want to get a new used car. Or maybe you want to find a new apartment or a new get into a new relationship, or maybe fix a relationship you're currently in. Whatever the things that you'd like to accomplish, I want you to think about that, because you'll also record that in the assignment for our SE 101 class, and we'll talk more about that here shortly. So we also need to take into consideration, as we're trying to answer that overarching question, why are you here? Now, we've thought about what are you going to get out of this place, and what type of goals do you want to accomplish, both long-term goals and short-term goals. But we also need to kind of consider, what have you gotten yourself into? You know, obviously college is probably going to be a different experience for you than you had when you were in high school. I know it was for me. You know, the school that I went to in high school was a fairly large school. I went to a 5A school, and we had a couple thousand kids in the class, but by no means did I know every single one of them, but I knew a vast majority of them. So when I came to college, it really was an eye-opening experience. So to be successful here, you really have to have an idea of, well, what is expected of you? And also, what are the demands on you? To do that, you've got to really notice, well, what's different here? And I'm sure as you've gone through campus in this last week and a half, you probably have noticed a lot of things that are different here. For example, you know, our campus is a 6 to 7 city block footprint with multiple buildings across campus that you're going to have to figure out how to navigate. And you're going to have to be able to get from one class to the next in maybe a span of 15 minutes, and you'll have to figure out what route to take, what sidewalk to take, and what door to go into. So it can be a confusing first experience in college to kind of get the lay of the land. Also, difference here in college. I don't know if you've noticed, but the parking. You know, freshman parking is out on North Campus, and it takes a couple of minutes in order to get from North Campus to South Campus to come to your classes, which was a big difference for me, because in high school, I had a set parking spot, and I knew every day where I was going to park. So I timed it out in my day so that I knew when I could get up in the morning, get dressed, grab a cereal bar, hit the car, be in the parking lot, and hit that door before the bell rang, and I had it down to a science. And I could probably maybe make it in about 20 minutes. Get up, get dressed, gone, and there I was. Because the high school was only a couple of minutes down the road from my house, because it was in the neighborhood. But here in college, you may be coming 30, 45, maybe even 50 minutes from your house. You've got to navigate the interstates in order to get here, and then go through the parking, and there's an endless sea of parking spots that you've got to try to find that golden spot that's just for you. And none of them are assigned to you, by the way, so it makes it that much harder to try to deal with parking. So that means you're going to have to get up maybe a little bit earlier, and you're going to have to be a little bit more cognizant of your time and your schedule as you're starting to come to college. That was definitely an eye-opening experience for me. Also, as you go around campus, you'll notice the diversity of the student population that we have here. We've got students from all over the state, all over the country, and not only all over the world, because we have a large population of international students that come to campus as well. All of that mixing into this melting pot here at Southeastern, you know, where we learn from each other. We have different ways of looking at the world. We've got different backgrounds and different goals that we want to try to accomplish, but all of that is festering and boiling here in this melting pot at Southeastern. And I think that's a good thing, because it's going to produce a really good product at the end. Other things that are different here at Southeastern, what you wear. You know, when I was in high school, we had to wear a uniform every day, and we had to wear the same color polo shirt and khaki shorts, and heaven forbid you change your hairstyle or you didn't wear the right pair of sneakers, because they'd send you to the principal's office or something like that. But you come here to college and you'll notice you can wear whatever you want. There is no dress code. I've had students that have rolled up to class in shirt and tie. I've had students that have rolled up to class in board shorts and a tank top. And I've even had some students that have come to class in bikinis and or pajamas, believe it or not. So you can wear whatever you want. Also, although be kind of cognizant of your surroundings with whatever you wear, because some of it may not necessarily be tasteful, tactful, or appropriate. But I'm going to leave that up to you. Other things that's different here compared to high school, the food. If you've had a chance to go to the student union, you see all the options that you can eat in the student union. We've got Subway, we've got Mooyah, we've got Pizza Hut, we've got the cafeteria, Plus, you can go off campus in order to get food down University Avenue or maybe even in downtown Hammond. Where in high school, I only had one option. We had a cafeteria with a hot food line, a sandwich line, and a salad bar, and you were lucky if the salad bar was fresh every day and it wasn't turning brown. So definitely a difference in maybe food choices here in college. Now, there are pros and cons to that because in high school, you maybe only paid $1.50 to eat lunch every day. But in college, you go to Mooyah and you get a burger, a fries, and a Coke. You do that 4 days a week for 15 weeks and see how much money you're going to pay at the end of the semester because it kind of adds up a little bit more than maybe in high school. Another thing about college that you're going to find, the freshman 15 is real, and I'm no hypocrite because definitely it's something I had to deal with whenever I was a freshman. But you'll notice if you're eating Pizza Hut and Mooyah and Taco Bell every day, 4 days a week, 5 days a week for a whole semester, it may not necessarily be as healthy as you would like. But watch out for that. One of the big things that's different that you need to figure out is expectations are different here. Expectations that you should have for your instructor, expectations you should have for your university, and also expectations that you should have for yourself as a student. Now, for the university, you should expect that the university is going to give you the opportunity to be able to learn. In high school, that was a little bit different. It was the high school's responsibility to make you learn. They had to find a way and give you resources in order to get you through. And if they didn't, then it reflected poorly on them, and they maybe had to answer to a higher authority. In college, though, it's the college's responsibility to give you an opportunity to learn, but it's not our responsibility to make you learn. That dynamic has flipped onto your shoulders. I have to give you the material in a manner in which you can comprehend and understand it, but it's your responsibility to actually come to class, pay attention, and do the work outside of class needed in order to pass the class. So the dynamic of responsibility has changed compared to high school to college. Also, your instructor. The responsibility on your instructor and their expectations are a little bit different as well. In high school, your high school instructor could be a little bit more in your business than maybe you would have liked. And what I mean by that is they got to know you on a personal basis. After a couple of weeks during the semester, they could get to know you on a first name basis because they saw you every day, Monday through Friday, for a whole academic year. So they can tell during the course of the conversation, just by looking at your body language, whether or not my point was really coming across to Elizabeth or to Bobby or to Jan, or do I need to maybe put it in a little bit of a different spin or a different example in order to get them to figure out what I was trying to teach? I could tell that just by looking at their body language because I knew them and they knew me. But that dynamic is different in college because your instructor has to approach your class a little bit differently. There's a difference in professionalism. I've had students over the years that'll say, Mr. Wayne, I feel like my college instructors really don't care about me, and they're very cold and give me kind of the cold shoulder compared to my high school teachers. And a lot of times I tell them that's a misnomer. Your college instructors want to see that you succeed, but we also have to treat you with a different kind of air of professionalism. So I have to kind of keep a little bit more of an arm's distance away from my students in order to protect their privacy and respect them as an adult and their freedom of choice. So as an instructor, I may not necessarily get into your business as much as maybe your high school teacher could, because again, there's a difference there in professionalism. You should expect that your college instructors know what they're talking about, so that whenever you come to class, you should expect that I know what I'm teaching and I can get it to you in a clear, understandable manner. Now, some teachers are better than others, just like in high school, some teachers are better than others. But you should expect that I know what I'm talking about. Also, in college, at minimum, your college instructors are going to have at least a master's degree, which means a 4-year undergrad degree and at least a 2 to a 3-year master's degree. Most of your upper level classes, when you get to be a sophomore or a junior, those are going to be taught by professors that are going to have a 4-year undergrad degree, maybe a 1 to 2 year master's degree, and then maybe a 4 to 5 year PhD. So you should really expect that they know what they're talking about because they're a specialist in their field. Also, your college instructors, you should expect that your college instructors basically give you an opportunity to learn, but also grade fairly. That I give everybody in the class an equal shake when it comes to grading, and that nobody feels like that they've been discriminated against or that they haven't been given a fair opportunity. You should expect and demand that from your instructor. Now, expectations have also changed for students. As students in college, you're expected to come to class every day. You're expected to be attentive. You're expected to give work outside of class, because in high school you went to class 5 days a week, and a majority of the work that you did in the class was done in the classroom. You didn't have a whole lot of work outside of class to do, like homework. College, that dynamic has changed. Now you go to class half the amount of time that you did when you were in high school. You only go to class 2 days a week. But you are expected to do more outside of class than you did when you were in high school. So you go to class less in college, but you're expected to do more outside of class on your own in order to get through the class. That was something that was an eye-opening experience for me, because it was so much different than what I experienced in high school. So expectations definitely do change. And getting a lay of the land and understanding what you've gotten yourself into, I think, can mean the difference between you starting strong and maybe you hitting a couple of obstacles as you go along. So as we've had our conversation today, I've challenged you to do a couple of things. I've challenged you to think about where your commitment level is as you're coming to the university here from the very beginning. I've challenged you to think about, why did you decide to come to college to begin with? And take a couple of things into consideration, as in, what do you want to get out of this place, as in long-term goals, and then maybe short-term goals that are going to help you maybe eventually reach those long-term goals. But also, you need to take into consideration, what have you gotten yourself into? So what are things that are different here compared to high school? And as you identify and think about what are things that are different here, that'll help you make those small adjustments as you go along. And then also, you need to seek out maybe some assistance. As I mentioned, it's not uncommon for students to come to their first semester and maybe hit a couple of bumps in the road, or maybe experience a little bit of friction as you go through the semester. And believe me, as the semester goes along and things start to pile up and the going starts to get rough, you may need a little bit of help. That's what your SE 101 instructor is here for, because not only am I your SE 101 instructor, I'm also your assigned advisor. So I want to work with you to try to help you get through this and get you to the next level. I also want to maybe recommend that you consider to do this. If you're having maybe some issues in one of your classes that's other than SE 101, please seek out your instructor. They've got assigned office hours outside of class that they're available for you to maybe talk to them through the computer, or maybe swing by their office and talk to them face to face. In their office hours, they may be able to answer questions that you were too maybe apprehensive to ask during the course of the conversation of the lecture, or maybe it's something that you thought about or read in your textbook when you were studying after class. You can always seek out your instructor for a little bit of extra assistance. Also, I know with the COVID situation, if you get sick, or if maybe there's a family member in your family that gets sick that you're trying to care for, and maybe you miss some class time and you need to try to get some makeup work done or get caught up in your class, seeking out assistance from your instructor is going to be very important, and that's where their office hours come into play. Now, other than your advisor and your instructor, we have other resources for you to consider to give you extra support as you go through your first couple of weeks of the semester. The Center for Student Excellence has our tutoring learning center over in Tinsley Hall that's available for students if you need extra help in maybe some of your core classes. Now, the tutoring isn't a substitute for studying. It's meant to be an assistance. If you hit a rough patch in a class and you need a little bit of extra help from some of our tutors in order to get through the class, consider maybe giving them an opportunity to help you. Also, if you hit maybe a rough patch in your personal life and you need some extra help, we have the University Counseling Center here on campus that can help students if maybe they're having a little issue with their personal life, or maybe relationships, or maybe even issues with their parents. They're there to help you out, maybe give you a shoulder to lean on if you have maybe some issues that you just want to try to get taken care of and get some help. Another resource for students is the Office of Student Advocacy and Accountability. This office is designed to be an advocate for students and your rights. So they're here to help you out. So for example, let's say maybe you get sick in the next couple of weeks, or maybe somebody in your immediate care or in your family is sick and that you have to care for, and you need to get caught up in some of your classes because you missed class, so you missed something, that important assignment or something like that, you can talk to the Office of Student Advocacy and Accountability, and they can help you have conversations with your instructors about maybe, providing opportunity for makeup. Now, the OSSA office obviously has a lot of different options that they can provide for students. So we have a video that's available that can give you a little bit more information about what their office has to offer. We also have the University Health Center here on campus. So if you feel poorly and you wanted to maybe see the school nurse, or maybe get some medicine or a Band-Aid because you fell down and scraped your knee or something like that, we have somebody on campus that can give you some basic medical attention, or at least maybe refer you to another doctor at another facility. We also have the Rec Center. Our recreation center over there close to South Campus is available for students where you can get a workout in, maybe do some cardio, or maybe just have a place to kind of relax and lounge around in the lounge. So we've got a lot of opportunities and resources here for students to be successful, but if you do hit a rough patch, or if things kind of start to stress as you go through the semester, we've got people here that can give you a hand as well.